Hey guys, Rich and Quinn here from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Quinn, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm all right, yeah.
You actually got a introduction then in the first bit. It was Rich and Quinn, not just
I know,
Rich.
like, fucking hell, I'm moving up in the world.
I know, you're almost got that title of co-host down.
I've got privileges now, people.
It's crazy when people in the comments are like, "Oh yay, Quinn's back," and I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" Like, you know.
In all fairness, it's the one dude that called me sexy jazz voice man.
It is the one dude who called you sexy jazz voice man. Yes. Quinn, we got some more exciting things to talk about today, haven't we? We had 4 characters revealed for the Criminal Syndicate changes.
Yeah,
However,
four characters that are all definitely new.
Half of those cards are most definitely not new. But if you haven't seen, Atomic Mass Games released the update for Criminal Syndicate, and it's really weird how they're doing these, Quinn, isn't it? Because it's like they started with 4 characters that were not in any real particular order, because you had Core Box Cap, Hulk, Murdoch, which you get. You're like, okay, these are the first characters, and then Shuri.
Well, Shuri was like second wave, right?
Second wave, yeah. But then it was like, then we had, what was it? We had Green Goblin was released by himself, and then it was like some of the, who were the next ones? Valkyrie, Enchantress, and Medusa. So like 3 random ones.
We got Guardians before them.
Oh, Guardians, and then those 3, and then the rest of the core box, and it just seems to be in a
little bit all over the place.
It is. And by the way, guys, don't take this the wrong way. I am loving these updated cards. Right, there isn't a card yet they've done that I thought, oh, that's just not very good. I do think there's a couple of characters they've potentially missed who could have done with an upgrade. Drax. But
do not say a bad word against my boy Drax. I love that murderous man.
But I'm really unhappy that they're not showing us the front and back for everyone. Now, they have done for these cards, so we've got both the front and the back cards. But as somebody who sat there last Wednesday night before, or should I say early hours of Thursday morning, frantically trying to get all of the cards over to Llama so that he could upload them to TTS. It was very annoying when some of them didn't have the backsides of the cards shown, especially on characters like Iron Man, where he gets a brand new ability on the back of his card. So yeah, a little bit annoying. But for all of these, fortunately, we have the front and the back. Now, they've put 4 characters in this article. Green Goblin and Murdoch we've obviously seen before. We've gone through those cards, so we're not going to go through them here. But what we are going to look at is Kingpin, a.k.a. Wilson Fisk, so the leader of the Criminal Syndicate, and then the real good one, which is Bullseye. But starting with Fisk then, Quinn, I mean, it's just one change, isn't it? And I think it was needed. So hail to the king. He can no longer, Kingpin with literally no superpowers at all other than he's very big, can no longer pick up and throw Dormammu across the board.
I am so disappointed by this change. I love the image of Kingpin judo throwing, like, the Lord of the Dark Dimension and just going, bam!
I think what I am surprised is it's only size 3. And the reason I'm surprised it's only size 3 is that he is a size 3 himself. And if you look, a lot of size 2 characters can pick up size 3 things. So I was surprised
those characters tend to have like super strength though, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, good point. So no other changes to his card. So nothing else gets changed. So you could say, well, I suppose it is a little bit of a nerf. Now, Quinn, do you think Kingpin was a character that needed something else that was counterbalancing that, shall we say?
I would have liked an extra die on the Cane Laser, I'll be honest. But I mean, Cane Laser ignoring line of sight is still really weird. I would have been fine with that losing the line of sight thing, but gaining a die. I think that would have been cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded to see that as being a second builder for him. A little bit like Visions, but without the sap, where it's, game. So keep it as 4, but gains 1 power at the end of each attack.
Yeah, that'd be really nice to just sort of souping up a Kingpin.
So, Quinn, on to the fourth of the characters that they revealed in their list, but we'll miss the middle two, as we said. We talked about him before. First of all, a couple of things to note here. He was the worst 3-threat in the game, bar none. I would argue he was the second worst character in the game.
Winter Soldier was up there.
I think Winter Soldier was at least usable.
Yeah, I feel like Bucky just massively was impacted by the fact he was the first range 5 in the game.
Yeah.
Bar Thor with his hammer throw. And they were playing it very safe with that.
Yeah, they were playing it super safe, weren't they? So not only that, he's got the most stupid comic book name ever as well. So Benjamin Poindexter. So he was a 5 stamina, medium move, 2 height, 3 threat, and then 3s across the board. And that was the same front and back. Quinn, he's had a fairly big change, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got 2 mystic defense. Oh my god.
So he's dropped some of his stats. So he's dropped 1 mystic defense, and he's dropped 1 stamina on his front and his back. So 2 stamina in total. But, and this is the real big kicker here, guys, he's now a 2-threat character. And I think this is brilliant. First of all, he definitely, he needed a lot adding to him to make him a viable 3-threat. But actually, just by taking a couple of those little stats off him and reducing his threat down, he feels right in terms of, and actually can do quite a lot. A 2-threat character that is guaranteed to do a damage is crazy. Like, absolutely crazy. I'm really happy that with what they've done. It's not the direction I thought they were going to go in. I thought they were going to beef him up a bit with his attacks. But what are your thoughts, Quinn, in terms of what they've done with him?
I mean, for a start, but Bullseye as a character should have always been a 2-threat. He's a dude that can throw things good. Like that's 2-threat material right there. The decision to make him a 3 always felt. The decision for both characters in that bot be the threats they were always felt weird because he was packed with Daredevil, and Daredevil doesn't feel like a 4-threat.
Daredevil should have been a 3-threat. He should have been a 2-threat. Yeah.
Daredevil's a blind dude that can hear good. Like,
what is your superpowers? I hear real good. I hear that good. I can almost see, but surely that's not as good as seeing. Like,
I mean, yeah, but both of those characters in that box should have always been a threat less than they were. But now that Bullseye is the threat he rightly should be, man, he's real good. Like, he is by far the most consistent 2-threat in the game, and that is nothing to sniff at. Having a 2-threat that just sits on a point for you the entire game and lobs 2 knives every round and guarantees doing a damage minimum is crazy good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does 2 things in terms of, like, Criminal Syndicate now have a 2-threat, which I personally believe that all affiliations, maybe with the exception of Asgardians, should have a 2-threat option. It feels like that's something they should have available to them. But it gives Cabal 2 2-threats now in affiliation, which is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I think will lead to some very, very interesting lists. I can already see Bullseye fitting in with a Sim spam, with a Sam spam, and a couple of others there as well. Maybe even turning up with the Guardians as an alternative backpoint holder to Rocket, for example. But yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to get from Bullseye is consistency, as you said, that guaranteed damage. I don't think he's got the potential, I don't think we're going to see him. He's not going to spike as much as a Nebula or a Rocket can, I think, in terms of damage output as often. Yes, you can get lucky with pincushion. And it pops off, but it's that guaranteed damage, isn't it? And the fact that it's every turn just chipping away, and if he's put bleed on as well, that then becomes a potential 3 damage, an activation that he's or a round that he's dishing out to a single character. So I think he's going to be seen in a lot of lists.
Yeah, I mean, like mine isn't painted like most of my collection, but I really I'm looking at him and like he's a really cool model. He's got like a really like great pose with a massive shit-eating grin. But also,
I always had a problem with his model, and I'll tell you why. It feel all of the other characters, all of the other models, for the most part, look like they're taken off the pages of a comic book, right? They look like you would expect. The proportions are right and everything else. Bullseye always felt a bit cartoony to me in his. I don't know if it was his pose or like the roundness of him or whatever it was, but yeah.
I think it's the pose because he's very clearly supposed to be taunting someone, which isn't a thing we've seen in any other model. They all sort of look like they're in the middle of action, whereas I feel like that kind of fits Bullseye as a character, though. Just sort of all of this chaos is going on around him, and he's just like, I'm gonna get you, get you.
Yeah. So where do you see him fitting now then, Quinn? Obviously, Criminal Syndicate and Cabal, that's, it's an obvious home for him.
Yeah.
But is there anywhere else that you think that we could see him pop up?
I think you could see him pop up in a lot of places. I think it's also worth mentioning that now his throwing knife has guaranteed power generation, which means every attack he makes, so long as he starts with 1 power, it's going to do 1 damage full stop. It's going to. It might do more, but it's doing at least 1, right? For net neutral power.
He doesn't even need to start with 1 power, does he?
I mean, no, he doesn't, because you choose the order.
Because you choose the order. So after the attack is resolved is when I Never Miss is kicks in. And let me just check on I Never Miss, Quinn, because we spoke about this, didn't we? Said that we'd like to see it kind of be included as part of the damage of the enemy attack.
It's not included.
It's not. So that I Never Miss won't trigger Red Skull's Cabal affiliation, a leadership, for example. But it will also mean that if a character has where they negate damage from an enemy attack, that wouldn't be classed as an attack, would it? So they.
I don't think there are any effects that actually specify attacks. It's usually effect.
It's usually enemy effect, isn't it? So you're still not going to be able to do it to Thanos.
Yeah, but Bullseye v Thanos feels like it's heavily weighted in one side's favour.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I could see Bullseye eking out that last point of damage needed.
I mean, if you take into consideration the average stamina of every model in the game, it's 5 or 6 depending on threat.
Yeah. On one side, yeah, absolutely.
Being able to just he's got range for attack, so he's probably starting in range of whoever he wants to go after. Being able to just go, okay, this 2 threat removes 1/3 of your health, you'll go, feels really good.
Well, and that's why I also don't mind him in potential Midnight Suns. Because
Midnight Suns, he applies bleed.
He's really good, he applies the bleed. It's really nice. I think, as with a lot of these 2 threats, Quinn, they're of all the characters, they're probably the most interchangeable, aren't they? Where you can slot them into most rosters.
Kind of by virtue of just having a 2 threat body is really good because being a 2 threat doesn't diminish your ability to score VPs unless you're Nebula. So any character can stand on a secure and gain VPs for it. So it might as well be the cheapest character you can, whilst you focus the weight of your threat value elsewhere.
Yeah,
and Bullseye can still contribute on every map pretty much, even on a D Extremis, if he's got 2 power, walk up, throwing knife, hit and run, walk back.
Exactly that. So even when he doesn't have any outside movement like a bump, he can walk up, do an attack, and then, as you say, get back to where he needs to be, or even to another point, right? It could be going and contesting something else. So
yeah, I mean, if you've left someone on one of the wide D points on 1 health, your two power Bullseye walks up, goes throwing knife, hit and run, I never miss, go die, walk onto the point, score it, feels real good.
Yeah. I mean, and he is going to be easy to take out. right? He's defensive wise. The only thing he's got is parting shot,
which
where
requires survive in the
he
first
needs,
fight.
yeah, he needs to have taken damage. Yes, you do 1 damage to the attacker, and then he gets to move away short. So there's the potential there that he can, get out of range of whoever it is that was attacking him on the back point. But he's really going to be one of those back point sitters, isn't he? Collecting those VPs, and maybe giving him a hammer, right? Walking up, getting a hammer, going back to the back point on whatever map you're playing, because actually all of a sudden a 5 strength throwing knife and a 6 strength pincushion feels quite nice on a 2 threat character. Quinn, so on the 3 threat video that I did, you went there for that. I ranked him D. You would be in agreement his old card was a D, yeah?
I would have put it in as Z, but sure.
What, right down with Ebony Moore on the bottom?
I cannot wait for his
tier.
blow up. That's going to be.
Oh, he should be good. So we both ranked him D previously as a 3 threat, and now as a 2 threat. Where do we think he sits? Because for me, the only S tier is Okoye.
I mean, we haven't seen the Okoye changes yet, and they better be coming because, good God, is she too good?
she is due a change as well. Yeah. So for me, he sits somewhere in sort of the B plus A minus.
I kind of like him as like A tier. Like,
okay,
consistency in this game is kind of king, and I really like that about Bullseye. Like, just 1 damage a turn, so like one damage every action, guaranteed on a 2 threat that can just stand on a point is so good. And I know I've said that multiple times throughout this video.
No, but people shouldn't underestimate. How many times do we take our Angela in, or Scarlet Witch, or MODOK, and we roll really well, but then our opponent rolls really well, and with that 1 point of damage off taking out a character. And it can be the difference between winning a game and losing a game. But guys, that is the brand new 2 threat Bullseye. So something I genuinely didn't think was going to happen in the game. Although I wanted it for Ultron, I didn't think they were going to change the threat levels. And actually, I think it just shows, Quinn, doesn't it, how bad he was when all they had to do was take 2 stamina and 1 mystic defense off him. And he's now a 2 threat. Like,
not only that, but they did those like negatives to him. Then they gave him like guaranteed power on his attack.
Yeah, but I think it should have been. I think it should have been there. But there were not many characters in the game where if you give them 2 more stamina, 1 front, 1 back, and they gained 1 mystic, that they would bump up a tier. Is there? I can't think of a 4 threat in the game where if you did that, they'd become a 5 threat, or a 5 threat become a 6 threat. So it just shows you how bad this character was in the first place. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Ebony Moore now, because now that now the gates have been swung open for threat levels to change, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do with him.
I still think he's a 5, I'll be honest, but like anything can happen at this point.
I wouldn't be surprised seeing him drop down to a 4. Because he's also a gem bearer as well, so he's got that flex up to 5 potential.
I mean, I still think gems are generally bad. Like, the power gem is awful.
The power gem is really bad because he's power and
he's not power. He's space mind.
Oh, space mind. That's the one. Space. Yeah. Two of the worst. Mind is good. But space could change as well, right? That's
space is probably coming down a threat, and if it does, that could be real interesting.
Yes, no, I agree. But guys, let us know down in the comment section below. What do you think of these changes? Are you happy that Bullseye has had a slight nerf, but is overall significantly better for his threat cost? Are you like me and Quinn? Are you looking at your Bullseye going, oh, I may give him a little touch up on the paint job because he may come out to play now? Let us know down in the comment section below what you think. And until next time, stay well, keep safe. Bye for now.
See ya.
See ya.